I was raised watching telenovelas. I haven't even seen it,
Como classic Spice World.
I'm gonna watch it.
It is classic.
Yeah.
And that was really good. That was a good.
So,
hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien.
Te voy a hacer la pregunta en español primero, ¿ok?
Okay. Mejor en inglés because it's rude because he's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I understand exactly what you're
I'm
saying.
sure you speak a little Spanish. I'm going to do a little trivia at the
You said,
end.
I got a question to ask you in Spanish first. Come on.
Nice.
What do you enjoy most about your character?
That I get to hang out with Zane all the time. That is so not true. What I like the most about Santanico is that it's an amazing character as a female girl, as a female role in Robert Rodriguez's world is really interesting to be part of this strong show. You know, there's male strong characters, and then you would expect, you know, us girls not to be as strong as them, but being able to be Santanico and talk about a subject which is being abused and being used for bringing, you know, she's like literally the pimp of the Twister, and she kind of wants to break free. She has a good soul, but she's been rotten by all these men. She's been used and abused, and so obviously being part of this show and doing a character that females can look up to, you know, it's really fun, and it's such a fun character as well because I get to be badass, but I also have this very sensitive side to her, and she's very emotional still. Even though she's a vampire, she has evil to herself. You get to see more evilness in him when he gets power than actually what she has as an evil character. So, you know, it's an interesting mix of a show.
You're more just, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're more.
Exactly.
You're more right in your actions, and I'm more greedy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is true, though. You know, and it tells a little bit of the story of this person that is driven. She wants vengeance. She wants to kind of bring peace back into this world. She's trying to save her people but she understands that the means are always going to be sometimes complicated, and so she knows that some heads have to be chopped in order to really get to the big deal. And so that is she's just clear. She's not evil or bitter. She's just honest and cold and goes for what she has to do. She has to eat people and kill through the way to get to a bigger source than she does. And so, you know, that's also like the humanity and the part of our nature. You know, we have that. We naturally have our instincts to survive. You know, and so I think
eating other people.
Well, if I had to and I was starving, I would eat people too. You know, you never know. Like survival.
I would definitely not eat a person now.
You would.
I wouldn't.
You would.
I wouldn't.
If there was no food, well, you would die. You would be like, nah, I'm not gonna eat you. I'm gonna die.
I think I would.
In that voice.
Yeah. I'm gonna eat you. Like that?
No, I saw that movie, what is it, Alive, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would be down.
You have to be in the situation to actually...
So you wouldn't survive,
I guess you never know until you're in that position.
Yeah.
Maybe a little hot sauce.
You cook it quick. You eat it.
You actually really covered a lot about Santanico, and I kind of want to ask this question to Zane because it's going to color a lot of the other questions I want to ask. And if you think this is a little like off color or something, like just cut me off. But there's a really large community of people online who are autistic that see a lot of themselves in Richie. And I was wondering if you have ever had a discussion with the writers or the showrunners, or if you yourself think about that while playing him, like as if you think he is like an autistic character, if you see any of that in him.
Well, I don't want to speak and say that I'm versed enough on autism to say whether or not that is true, but I get from what I do know, I guess you can see that maybe his social cues are a little bit different than other people's, and he picks up on things a little bit differently than some of the other characters do, and they kind of, you know, in the first season you see that his actions are he seems distracted. His brother doesn't know what he's doing or what's kind of affecting him and why he's acting in this way. So that's interesting because that never really came up with the writers, but that's cool that people are looking into it and perceiving it in different ways.
Yeah, he's become a really sort of powerful character.
Yeah, he's kind of overcome the, you know, he had some hurdles that he had to jump over in the first season, seeing things that nobody else can see, and having to kind of process that the best way that he can. And now in season 2, we've kind of seen him almost like bloom into this other guy and kind of take control and get out from under his brother's shadow and kind of be his own man.
So, with Santanico, I got to see some of the other episodes, like episode 8 and 9. We see sort of a progression of her storyline with Paloma. How did you feel about that storyline and where it took, her character and like the growth that it took?
I love that storyline. I think it's such a crucial storyline to really understand Santanico. I think at the end of the day, she's a super intelligent, calculating. She understands, like, there's that scene that we have that we're sitting down and I'm like, we can eat them. She's much more primal in that way. She's in the first scene, he's like, what's the rule, not eating civilians? I think at the same time, Richard is being introduced to this world and I'm being introduced to the world because I've been locked into the titty twister. So it's like these two kind of like codependent relationship really feeding each other. But when Paloma comes into the storyline, you start to understand that there's that scene that I go, they're not going to touch you. And when she's saying these lines, she's like...
Talking about yourself.
She's talking about herself. She's really reflecting herself. And this is what she would wish she had when Santanico came into this world.
Someone to protect her.
It's a very beautiful relationship because it shows the true colors of the character. It really shows that she's a human. And that also we make bad choices, I like that the series allows the characters to do bad choices. It's not always like, oh, and then we triumphed on the decision. Like, you see her go down and it goes south and Carlos gets me, and we have those moments and the characters do bad choices, and so I think that's cool, and I think that every character has it throughout the season, and and that was very important because in the first season you don't really get to understand Santanico. It's more of a dream to Richard, and she looks more like a goddess in this
she's
season.
Like an idea. I liken it's kind of like she's like a promise of something that I'm being drawn to, and why am I being drawn to it. And I think what you're saying is super interesting. They did a really good job. I think the writers did a great job this season of kind of exposing Santanico to this machine that she's kind of been
part of,
feeding and influencing, and really like throwing it in her face. Like, hey, there's these trucks full of people that are being shipped to the Culebras now that you're not there, and kind of, she's been in there for 5,000 years or whatever. So really seeing the world that she has, whether wanting to be a part of or not, this sort of system that she's helped,
and it's part of her nature
create.
too.
And my character is kind of oblivious to that, and you see throughout this season we get into a lot of arguments where I'm just like, yeah, whatever, okay, your problem is great. I'm trying to take this money. Like, what do you not understand? So you'll see that really come to a head over the course of the next few episodes, where her agenda and my agenda really clash and cause some sort of a rift between us.
Zane, so you're portraying a character who never really saw a third act.
Correct.
In the first film.
You just kind of turned into the thing.
Exactly. Now, how does it feel to continue his story almost 10 years later and like
20 years later?
20 years later.
Came out in 95.
Yeah,
96.
20 years later.
Yeah, so we were about 18 or 19 years in when we shot the first season. I was glad to be able to continue the story just because I thought there was more that could be done with Richie. I didn't think Richie's story was done yet in the show, and I wanted to be able to keep playing him. And then, selfishly, I wanted to still have a job. So I was kind of waiting around the whole first season like, you guys gonna kill me? Or what's gonna happen? Because I didn't really, I knew that I had a deal to come back for more seasons, but I didn't know, just because you have that, they can still kill you. It doesn't really matter. So I was glad to see when we got to the last few episodes that Richie kind of was gonna take Santanico and they were gonna take
By the way, half of the cast dies. Almost everyone.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. So that's fun.
That was great. And I've said this in other interviews and stuff, but I think that where we are now, season 2 and beyond, is and was the ultimate goal for the show. We redid the film in season 1 to kind of reestablish these characters, reintroduce them. I mean, when you have characters like that, Santanico, the Gecko brothers, there's no other really any real way if you're going to use those characters to jump into this show without kind of going through that process of having these two brothers that are bank robbers and they're in sort of a realistic crime-driven world, and then the left turn that comes when you get to the temple, and then there's the bar, and then there's the vampires. Just as we're being exposed to it, the audience is being exposed to it. So we had to do the movie for the first season, but the goal was to be here. And that's why we're also happy to be here in season 2 to be able to tell new stories and hopefully continue to tell new stories.
Yeah, and even Robert said it. You know, he mentioned it to us, like for him to be able to revisit his work, and there are so many things, like even he sees his work and he is like, this didn't make much sense, so he wanted to redo like the whole story throughout the first 5 episodes that I'm talking to him in the movie. You don't really get to see that, so you're like, this guy's crazy, you know what I mean? In this, he wanted to introduce that world before, so it would blend in a little bit more. Like, you know, it's really cool to see someone as creative as Robert and be like, honestly go back to his work of 20 years ago and be like, what did I do wrong, what worked, what didn't work, what I want to redo. And that is amazing, just to be part of that world. And really, you know, they had scenes that were part of the movie that weren't able to fit in the movie, so we got to do
the scene with Brandon,
in the show.
Yeah, the scene with Brandon where Brandon Sue, who plays Scott Fuller, we're up in the hotel talking about, hey, do you watch Bruce Lee movies, or because you kind of look like Bruce Lee or whatever. That scene was in the original shooting script for Dusk Till Dawn, the film. And
sounds like Tarantino.
And it just never made it, you know what I mean? And there was that whole shootout scene that happened at the motel in season 1 that was supposed to be in the film as well, but due to budget and rewrites and timing and whatever, it just didn't happen. So a lot of the stuff that we did revisit in the first season or expand upon in the first season was ideally going to be there in the first place.
Real Quentin Tarantino pages,
we just
you know?
were lucky enough to have the opportunity to do it and make it exist with Robert.
Thank you guys.
One last quick question.
I do, but it's kind of a complex one, so like if you just want to answer it like really quickly. Just that we see 3 major characters that are abuse victims on the show: Santanico, Richie, and Seth. And Richie is the one who burned the house down to save his brother. And I almost feel like there is sort of a mutual like understanding between Richie and Santanico as people who have been abused, that they do sort of have to. Like, I feel like even though their agendas cross, do you feel like there's still an understanding of him being understanding that she wants to just like cut it off and like, because he kind of did the exact same thing to his abuser.
I mean, I think there's probably a reason why Santanico chose Richie to be the one that she was going to call out to and have her kind of help him escape from
She sees like
the
a
titty
potential
twister.
in him.
She saw that I was maybe the guy that was going to be able to, for whatever reason, have that calling and come and save her. But now that you're out, you kind of see, maybe she doesn't love me.
Yeah.
Maybe she was using, or maybe she does. But
No,
that's kind of, those are the layers and the different kind of things that we get to see.
And also, every character in the show goes through abuse, if you analyze it. I go through it with Malvado. Carlos goes through it with Malvado.
Yes,
you know,
true.
he's used. Narciso's used by Malvado. The Fullers, Kate Fuller, is abused because she basically, eventually, you know, the whole mother-dad story, how they had to take care of their dad. Everyone has had certain scarring throughout the show, and I think that's the lovable thing about Robert and Quentin. They write intelligent characters that people can relate in various ways. You know, she has a family issues, he has a father, daughter, like this is like an abusive relationship she has, Santanico, with Malvado, which is kind of dark because she looks at him also like a male figure. So you know what I mean? Every single character in the show has that, and that's what we always mention. There's bad, there's worse, and there's even worse in this show. There's not like good and bad. Even like
everybody is badass.
Yeah, everyone's badass for sure.
Tagline for season 2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.